Doom, the amount of pressure that's got to be on their shoulders. And we're going to jump straight into it. We have got Mr. Nikachu himself, probably why he might be in the X5 bracket, on Merfolk here in Standard, up against Max, better known as Twinless Twin. And he's playing this Teamer Flood Caller, Teamer Artist deck that's been really popular in Standard recently. Talk me through it.
Yeah, so we saw Max on camera yesterday. A lot of people associate this Teamer Floodcaller deck with the combo, which is Storm Chaser's Talent combined with Enduring Vitality, the Valley Floodcaller, and This Town Ain't Big Enough. If you can assemble all four of those cards with enough otters in the battlefield, you can generate infinite mana, infinite prowess triggers, bounce all your opponent's stuff, and attack them. But to be honest with you, this deck feels the way that the games played out yesterday, at least the way that, Max had played against Dimir midrange, and the way the games played out, it kind of just was a midrange deck first and foremost, or dare I even say a beatdown deck where you're just, Storm Chaser's Talent into Storm Chaser's Talent, a couple of cheap prowess creatures, cast a couple of cheap spells, and you don't really have to utilize the combo until you've sort of exhausted all of your opponent's resources. Now, for Nikachu on the left-hand side of your screen, playing Merfolk, this is not a deck that I will say not a deck that I'm familiar with in the standard format. But Nikachu, just decided he went to Scryfall, Control F for all the Merfolk that he could find were legal and standard, and it does turn out there is a good number of decent ones. More specifically, the Lord Vidalian Hexcatcher, which is a card that the modern versions play as well.
I'll tell you the exact reason Nikachu is playing this, so he gets to play his own tokens. Like, I know Nikachu, he's all about the content. He's all about it. He got here with Merfolk. If it doesn't get him to the final, he will be leaving on it. He will not change the way that he wants. Look at him look at the camera and talking as well. Like, he's a showman through and through. Wants to see that token. Going back to what you're saying about this artist deck, though, and how it has like a bit of a combo finish to it as well. We saw that last standard before the latest set Foundations come out. There was the Gogori deck that with Vraska, right? It plays the mid-range deck, but then all of a sudden can just win out of nowhere, combos them out, gives them enough infect counters and wins the game. So really got to be on Nikachu's radar here. Face up value. I know you've been playing a lot of standard recently. Who would you give the edge to?
Well, this is, like I said, a matchup that I am not necessarily the most, the most familiar with in terms of what Nikachu is up to. Now, the one thing that I want to look at is looking at Nikachu's deck list, because, we mentioned the combo. There are certain pieces that need to be assembled in order for Max to execute this combo. And for Nikachu, playing Simic doesn't typically have access to good interaction. So looking at Nikachu's deck list, really the only way that he has to, I guess, quote unquote, interact with Max's creatures would be Unable to Scream, which is an enchantment and aura that makes it something into an 0-3 or 0-2 creature. But outside of that, Nikachu is really just about putting stuff onto the battlefield and utilizing those lords, like we talked about, Vidalian Hexcatcher, maybe even Mockingbird to copy the lords. So I would say I gotta give the edge to Max here, because if Max is able to, assemble the combo or set up the pieces he needs to do the combo, I don't really think Nikachu has a way to stop that.
So you think Max's advantage isn't in the mid-range game, it's the combo element where you think Nikachu will be able to just go too wide in this instance, or maybe too wide and too big if he can grow within basically what every Merfolk deck does in every format?
Right, because so Max's mid-range plan, or Max's fair plan, quote unquote, is just Storm Chaser's Talent, bounce it a couple of times, put a bunch of prowess otters into play. But I don't really think that those match up super well against like Nikachu's going wide board, especially if he can assemble a lord or two. So I think it's going to be difficult for Max to sort of assemble any sort of attack phase, or assemble any sort of attack step in the face of a couple of lords. Now, Max does find a torch, and that can take care of a Hexcatcher at some point, but Nikachu has enough Merfolk on the battlefield. And what's nice about Hexcatcher with that Deep Root Pilgrimage is that the tokens that Nikachu is making for free, those can just be sacrificed to eventually counter that torch.
Yeah, seeing obviously it does come with a cost. You do have to sacrifice a creature. And in this instance, Max has got more mana up, so it would cost a couple of creatures here if Nikichu was to go for it. But he knows what he's doing. If I had to put money on anybody to pilot a Merfolk deck to get the W's, it would be, of course, Mr. Nikichu himself. As we see, end of turn here, we're going to flash in another one. This is the one that puts the stun counters on a creature. Nice little 2/1. I know this because I've drafted it 1,000 times, which is basically a whole all Nikachu's deck at this point. I was like, oh, I know that. I've drafted that card. I've drafted that card. I've drafted that card.
Yeah, Floodpits Drowner, fantastic card from Duskmourn that is seeing a ton of play. It does happen to be a Merfolk, although most of the decks that are playing it with blue white flash and blue black mid range, those decks don't really care that about the creature type. They're mainly just playing it just because it is 2/1 lock down a creature. It acts as this weird removal spell where if you utilize the Drowner on your opponent's turn, you can then untap and use the ability to shuffle it away. That card is, now that I mentioned it, something that Nikachu actually can use to interact with Max's creatures, specifically those combo pieces. I believe that Enduring Vitality got tapped down with a stun counter for a turn with that Drowner. So if Nikachu wants to, he can just untap, activate the Drowner, shuffle away the Vitality, and that's going to be removing a combo piece for Max.
Nice. Chat, more people are joining us. Yes, so the first 2 rounds today, round number 9 and round number 10, will be standard action. Round number 11, that is going to be Pioneer. And then that last round, round number 12, where we find out who is getting into today's top 8, that is going to be Modern. So if you're a fan of any of those 3 formats, or maybe you've got, a horse in the race, do let us know in chat. We love seeing all your little messages and who you're rooting for, and what you want to see and what you don't want to see, of course, as we pass the turn back to Nikachu.
Yeah, and these players are 3 and 5, but remember, we want to make sure we reiterate this for the folks, the viewers at home. This is an elimination match. If you get the 6 losses, you are out of the tournament. So the loser of this match will, I'm not going to say be going home because there is free lunch today, but the loser is going to be out of contention for the top 8.
What, we're getting free lunch as well? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
do
I don't
makes
know
picking
about
up the
that.
check?
Uber Eats to the UK is probably a little too pricey for me.
We don't even have Uber Eats, especially not where I live in the UK. Anyway, you can get the violins out now, chat. It's fine. It's a hard life we've got to live here. Nietzsche's in the tank, kind of saying what he wants to do. Max is holding up that passage over there. Nikachu knows about the removal spell, and Max does have one basic mountain in the list that could go get fetched up. It will be the 4th land, so we'll come and play untapped. It's a kill spell at the ready. Nikachu's wondering how does he navigate around this. He does have one Lord in hand already, but decided not to deploy it because obviously it can just get shut down. But then maybe this is the point you want to deploy it, while Max is trying to tap down low on lands.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the awkward part is Max could respond to the Lord and then cast the torch, but you're kind of okay with that if you're Nikachu, because you'd much rather have one of your random other creatures, one of those Mistway spies, getting hit by the torch rather than the Lord. So, yeah, so that's exactly what's going to happen. Nikachu is going to shuffle away that Vitality. And, one thing we didn't talk about was these Mistway spies, which is, for all intents and purposes, effectively just a 1-mana 1/1 flyer that has Merfolk. The ability on it's not going to be relevant here. But what's important is that they are flyers that have the Merfolk creature type, and with those lords, that could represent a reasonable clock here for Nikachu.
Well, at the minute, we're just chipping away, just adding more 1/1s to the battlefield. At some point, we're able to get multiple lords down, these 1/1s turn to 2/2s, into 3/3s. They turn them all sideways. We've seen what happens with Master of Waves. It is Master Waves, isn't it? It used to say a little bit of playing standard and modern back in the day.
That card should have been in Foundations for Nikachu. That should have been a plant.
Look, we'll have to pass it up the chain to Wizards. Like, come on, all the Merfolk players out there, they need a little bit of help here.
Well, they gave him Floodpits Drowner. How much more can he ask for?
Yeah, sure. that all-star. All right. Going to combat. We're turning everything sideways.
Getting in here. So the creature that's in the middle, that is the Valley Floodcaller. Now that one's very important because that's sort of, it's funny, we talk about Nikachu having lords. That's actually kind of like Max's lord, where every time Max casts a non-creature spell, all of his otters get +1/+1 and untap. So if Nikachu makes some kind of crazy block here, Max can say, okay, well, play a spell, kill one of your creatures, pump my creatures, kill one of yours, pump my team, and that this block could potentially get out of hand. The math is going to get really weird if Nikachu decides to deploy that Lord as well. So this turn could get a little strange here.
Tell me what's like the strength of the Team Zaczek deck? Why would you bring that this weekend to this tournament with only 24 players in it?
I think the deck just has a lot of resiliency, right? It has a lot of ways to amass card advantage, specifically with Storm Chaser's talent plus this town ain't big enough. That lineup is pretty good against Dimir because you can just keep them off tempo a little bit by bouncing their stuff while also picking up your talent, making sure you keep putting creatures in the battlefield, and it gets to a point where they have to respect your like quote unquote mid range plan. But then if they use too many removal spells to keep pace with your mid range plan, then eventually you can just get to a spot where you can combo them out.
Does it line up well in the meta, or is this just like I feel like knowing Max and like his style of play, loves blue cards, loves red cards, loves Phoenixes and Murktides, etc. This is the closest thing that he could find in standard that's going to give him the most choices of filtering through his deck, as long as it's got that extra little combo piece. He is called Twinless Twin after all.
Yeah, big combat step here. So Max is currently Nikachu blocked with 4 Merfolk. Max has currently cast 2 spells, so that this town ain't big enough, plus the Storm Chaser's talent. So by my math, I believe the Flood Caller is currently a 4/4. And we know about the Torch the Tower in hand. So Max could maybe torch the other Mistway Spy to make it a 5/5. It looks like maybe he's content with just letting this trade happen. We'll see exactly what Max wants to do, though.
You got to think, remember, Nikachu has got a instant speed Lord that he can deploy this turn if needs be. So if Max was to fire off, he's got no extra red mana at the minute. He could only have access to the 1, and I think this is where we're going to see it. So here comes the remind me the name of it.
Vidalian Hexcatcher.
That's it. Hexcatcher comes in.
Oh, so Nikachu's actually going to
stack.
Yeah, we're actually going to fight over the Storm Chaser's talent, which is interesting. So remember, those creatures are now 2/2s because they do get pumped by the Lords. So Max can say, pay 1 for this. Then maybe Nikachu sacrifices the other Mistway Spy. Max pays another 1, but then Nikachu has 3 2/2s lined up against the 4/4 Flood Caller. So that would still end up, trading it in combat. If Max decides to say not pay for the talent and then torch the Lord, Nikachu sacks the Mistway Spy, Max pays. This is going to be interesting to see how this combat plays out, because Nikachu can protect that Hexcatcher from the torch if by sacrificing 2 things.
But then that's not enough to be able to kill the Otter, because the Otter will be 5, right? At the minute it's 4. This makes it 5.
Well, right, because he would have to sacrifice the spy and one of the tokens.
Which is
so that's going to happen.
Doing.
So Torch is presumably going after the Hexcatcher.
Pay the extra 1. So, okay, so Nikachu's happy with just a chump here, but like at least at the end of this sequence, he has the Hexcatcher resolved, which is ideal, realistically. Like this is actually a really well thought out line of almost a trap Nikachu set in this instance. Since now he knew that removal spell was in hand here for Max, has baited it out, and by the end of the everything said and done, he will have this Lord that it looks like he's putting a lot of stock in to be able to win this game alive on the battlefield.
This is a really big attack, though. I think I counted 10 damage. Nikachu's taking 11, actually. So Nikachu's going to fall all the way to 4, because remember that Otter gets pumped twice. The Otter has prowess, plus it gets pumped by the Valley Flood Caller. So the Otter was 1, 2, 3, 7 4, 5, by 6, itself.
7, yeah. Jeez, that's a big hit.
Huge attack, and then 4 from the Thunder Trap Trainer. So Nikachu had 4. Now the nice thing about Mistway Spy is it does have flying, so Nikachu can attack poke in with that, get a token from the Deeper Pilgrimage, and so we know about the Mistway Spy in Nikachu's hand. I believe the other 2 cards is that Subterranean Schooner and I think Unable to Scream.
You are correct, sir.
Lines up pretty well here, because the really cool thing about Schooner is the crew ability on Schooner combined with Pilgrimage, you can tap your Merfolk 1 at a time. So Pilgrimage is sort of gated around the fact that it only triggers once per combat. It triggers every time a Merfolk attacks. But if you're tapping one merfolk at a time for the schooner, you can say use the spy, crew the schooner, trigger the pilgrimage, and then even after that, once the schooner is a creature, you can then use the schooner again to tap the hex catcher to make another token. So this is a way for Nikachu to go really wide.
Has Max got a way of getting through this? Like at the minute, it looks like Nikachu's got a way to make infinite blockers. Well, not infinite, but enough blockers that you need to not die potentially next turn or the turn after. What has Max got to go with? Nothing to give the tramp or anything like that?
No, none of that. There's no like burn spells in the deck, not a ton of reach. Really, the only thing that Max has is bounce spells. But the other thing that's worth pointing out is the tokens from Deeper Pilgrimage will have hexproof. So you can't even remove the tokens to sort of try to get through. And with that unable to scream on the Valley Floodcaller, it's going to be really difficult for Max to size the battlefield appropriately versus that hex catcher.
I'm just reading one of the cards here.
What do you need? I got you.
I'm looking at Roaring Furnace here over on Max's side. Just say, I was like, does that
only
go
creatures.
face? It does. Yes, only creatures. All right. So it looks like Nikachu might actually be able to stabilize a little bit here at 3 life, but is he able to turn that around and get this across the line, or is Max going to be able to find an answer? 2 cards in hand, taking a big breath in there, big sigh. That's telling me that it's going to have to do it the hard way. Well, land's not what he's going to want, especially if it comes to play tapped. Here comes a few more tokens, end of turn. Of course, they're the Nikachu tokens that he earned from winning his invitation to this event. If you had a token maybe in your likeness, what would it be?
Well, it would be a Rhino token for sure. Shout out to Violent Outburst. Well, I think Nikachu may have picked up the best card in his deck. I think he drew another Vidalian Hexcatcher.
Of course he did. Because all these merfolk right now are getting +1/+1. So if we've got an instant wait, and this is one of those ones where you could turn everything sideways. Max makes a couple of blocks or not blocks, then all of a sudden you pump your whole team, and that's what we're going to see here. We're coming across for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and does it get the creature type as well?
No, the schooner is not a merfolk, so it's only 3. So this should be an attack for 11, I believe.
So we have to do a little chump in here, but even then.
Well, that's 11. That's 11 that Max knows about. Max does not know about that the other hex catcher that's in hand for Nikachu.
I also love that the vehicle's a boat, by the way, in a merfolk deck. Like the flavor of this deck is just absolutely on point.
Oh, it's flawless. The boat also helps the merfolk go fishing, but that's kind of weird, right? The merfolk wouldn't fish for their friend.
No, you're fishing for the merfolk off the boat.
Well, then it's anti-synergy, right? Because the boat, if you're fishing for the merfolk, then you're that you know what I mean?
No, because you're fishing for more friends. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay. Anyways.
All right, back to blocks. Max looks like we've got at least 2 blocks definite. Let's say it doesn't block here, so that's going to be what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Max is thinking, okay, maybe I don't like that. If you've got this, is there any way to play around this Lord? You got to go 1, 2. Basically, we've got a block on everything. Is that enough?
So if you block the schooner and 1, that would be 3, 6, 9. You can block 2 and take 9 because you block this because they're going to all be 3 power, right? So there's 5 3 power attackers, 2 get blocked. That's 3 coming through. 3 times 3 is 9, and go to 1 and maybe leave the otter back in play. But from there, I don't really know if Max has any outs. He has no sweepers in the main deck. Without enough combo pieces in play, can't really, we talked about the deck can sort of just present the combo, but without enough pieces in play, can't really do that. Maybe if there's something like this town, you can go block like this town to bounce your own trainer. We have Torch. So that could do something.
I guess you just let it resolve though, right? Like there's not much. You don't want to sacrifice your board to this.
Especially if he drew another one, you could theoretically sack 5, but you'd have to give up. I can't tell how many tokens. I think he has 2 tokens untapped. So if that's the case, you could sacrifice 2. Okay.
Oh, maybe Max didn't pay the extra. Oh no, because it makes it 2/2 still. I was really getting excited then.
Okay, so he's going to respond. We're going to make another token. So now if you sacrifice the 3 untapped.
Oh, my word.
All right, we can make another one here too.
He's just sacrifice these 5, make you pay an extra 5. And I think we've only blocked 1 at this point. So as long as we keep the Lords around, and we're just going to go through the motions here. I think Max is going to pay him all out, but Nikachu's got enough merfolk to get this done. and is going to be able to take down game number 1. That is a bunch of damage. Nikachu, how does this draft pile win? That's how it wins, ladies and gentlemen. It just gets there every single time. Do not count the man out. He's here to make a statement. Merfolk is still good in 2024, and it's going to be good in 2025. But let's have a look at the list. Let's get the deck list up for everybody at home. So let's start over on Max's side. Game down now, has to win 2 back-to-back to stay in it. He is playing for his tournament life. What do you like here?
So Max has Pop Edge Formation. Those are no good. Disdainful Stroke, Royal Treatment, I don't think Screaming Nemesis is something where you want to be. Really, from Max's side, you want more things that interact early. So Unsummon, Lithomantic Barrage, Volcanic Spite, those are all slam dunks. Past that, I don't really know if there's a ton that Max wants, like maybe Dissection Tools, because you figure that the lifelink body is relevant. Maybe you want some sort of just like big lifelink blocker / attacker. That could be something. It really all kind of depends on what Max wants to remove from his deck. Maybe trim a little bit on the combo. Maybe you want to trim maybe a cantrip or 2, but it feels like there's not a ton here from Max.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, and I'm trying to find an explanation of why that fell down for Max. It was even on the play, which is where you want to be against the aggro decks. But let's have a look over at Nikachu's whole 75, because this is an open deck list tournament for all players taking part this weekend. Looking at that sideboard, what'd you like?
I think this might be the Pioneer version. Yeah, because I saw Smuggler's
Copters. Oh yeah. Smuggler's Copters is definitely not legal.
Definitely not legal in Standard. Let's. I don't know if we can get there. We may not have the deck list available, but I'll read Nikachu's sideboard off here for you. 4 Minor Misstep, 4 Pick Your Poison, 4 Snakeskin Veil, and 3 Witness Protection. Now, I mean, that looked pretty good for Nikachu. I don't think he has to do a ton. Maybe Pick Your Poison to go after those the Storm Chasers talents. Maybe Snakeskin Veil if he expects Max to have a lot of removal spells. Same thing with Witness Protection to break up those combo pieces. But I mean, honestly, that looked kind of clinical from Nikachu. He really showed us the ability, like his ability to just go wide with that Deep Root Pilgrimage plus Subterranean Scooter combo. And it looked kind of clean from Nikachu.
You've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times. Like Nikachu finding a W with Merfolk. He just gets it done every single time. And I want to talk about it being an open deck list tournament and sideboarding, because it's really interesting to me, this dynamic of, it's almost like a mind game. You're playing with your opponent 2.0 at this point. They know what I've got. I know what they've got. I think they're going to bring them in. So I'm going to bring in X. You're going to bring in Z to counter that. Do I not bring in X? So your Zs are not usable. How do you go into a tournament of 24 players, knowing open deck list on what sideboard cards to have in your deck, and 2 to, how do I win this mind game?
Well, open deck list is also kind of interesting because you can sort of like mind games your opponents and maybe like sneak a 1 or a 2 of in there that maybe they're like, well, I don't want to play around this card because there's only 1 copy, but then the situations where you have it, it's kind of backbreaking. Like I'm trying to think of an example where maybe you have a Rest in Peace in your sideboard against your graveyard hate opponent or against your graveyard opponent, and they have very specific cards that they have that interact with Rest in Peace where they don't necessarily want to bring them in because you don't have a lot of other targets, but if you draw the Rest in Peace, then they're kind of KO'd. So there's some little mind game things like that. And the other important thing is like one really good thing about like this matchup in particular is that Nikachu's deck is pretty weak to sweepers, right? Let's be honest here. But with open deck lists, Nikachu knows there's no sweepers, there's no Pyroclasm, there's no Brotherhood's End. So Nikachu doesn't even have to play around any of that stuff and can just go as wide as he wants without any care in the world.
That's huge. As an aggro play, knowing that there's no sweepers coming, that you just deploy your whole hand on the battlefield, it's absolutely insane as an aggro player. And Nikachu's going to be extremely happy that he doesn't have to, play around them. I always go back to the open deck list sideboard, and I think some decks benefit more than others in open deck list. Is that a reason potentially why you'd bring Otters? Merfolk, we knew Nikachu was bringing good or bad. It doesn't matter if it's going to be great in this tournament or not. He was bringing it. But let's over on Max's side, like, is that another reason maybe we bring Otters this weekend?
Potentially. I think one thing that's, a little bit important about this deck is the presence of Anoint with Affliction, because the Valley Flood card, the Enduring Vitality is the combo piece that has sort of built-in protection against removal spells. When it dies, you get it back. But the thing about that is the mid-range decks have at least a lot of them have started adopting more Anoint with Afflictions. So knowing exactly how many Anoints your opponent has, you can be a little bit more maybe liberal by, with casting those Vitalities early on, to knowing that your opponent has less copies of Anoint. You're not worried about that thing getting exiled. So that could certainly be that could certainly be a part of it.
Well, for everybody at home that maybe you're watching this, maybe you want to take part in this, you want to be here, you want to be at the invitation, you want to be battling out for your share of $35,000 with a PT invite. Well, we've got some future events coming up next year, so you need to get them on your diary now, nice and early. Doom, talk me through this.
So the February 1st and the 2nd, we're going to be in Chicagoland for a 10K showdown and a 10K team trial. A lot of team events here. May 10th and the 11th in Chicagoland as well. $10,000 showdown, 5K trial. March 15th and the 16th in Madison, 10K showdown and a 5K trial. And last but not least, June 28th and the 29th in Indy. That's a 10K showdown and a 10K team showdown. I gotta say, Will, NRG bringing back the team events, you love to see it.
I was about to say, that's the one that we're going to, right? Me, you, and Mason, but we're going to head to that one. We're just going to turn up, give Norm a real big headache of being able to find himself a bunch of casters for the weekend, because we're all going to be down there.
I have an idea. What if we played Merfolk in all 3 formats?
I'm game if you are. Unless you say that, it looks like Nikachu's joining his opening 7, which of course is all Merfolk, but it needs a little bit of land to go along with it. So we'll be throwing it back, going to 6. Max looks like he's happy with that opener. This is round number 9 for anybody just tuning in of 12 Swiss that we have today. And we're doing things a little bit different. We are playing 3 different formats in these last 4 rounds. We've got standard round number 9, standard round number 10, pioneer round number 11, and modern is round number 12. Where we're going to find out who is in that top 8. And then a little bit later on this afternoon, we pass it over to the next caster team. They're going to be crowning us a champion and awarding not only their share of a big bunch of money, but more importantly, that Pro Tour invite to Chicago next year. That is huge.
The hometown Pro Tour.
Maybe not for Will, it isn't, but for the NRG series.
The NRG series, yeah.
I've never been to Chicago. I would really like to go to Chicago. I just hear it's going to be really cold this time of year, so I was like, I'm not going to go to that one.
Yeah, Chicago is a little tough this time of the year. I'm sure Norm, our broadcast partner, knows a lot about that. As we see Storm Chasers talent on turn 1, that's kind of exactly where you want to be here for Max. Just get the pressure on the battlefield early, and especially combined with as we talked about, this town ain't big enough to reset these Storm Chasers talent, can give you a lot of bodies and allow Max to. I think Max's plan here is you kind of need to try and race, where maybe it's a race to try to set up the combo as fast as possible, because as we talked about, the beatdown plan not so great here, because Nikachu can go so wide.
Well, Max also putting emphasis on, I need to keep the Merfolk deck down. If you got these creature decks, it's the same in standard, pioneer, or modern. If you can keep the Merfolk count down, Merfolk cannot go big, cannot go wide. They need to really start, slowing it down a little bit, killing off just even the early 1-drops like this, as Max is doing, applying a little bit of pressure, making sure Nikachu has to set up. Remember, is on a mold of 6, so is down on cards as well.
Yeah, Nikachu looks like we're being told from our table spotter that it appears that Nikachu sideboarded out 2 lands. That's what we're being told. I don't know if I necessarily stand by that decision, but he is who he is.
That is so. My favorite player of all time, Mr. Tom Ross. Mm-hmm. He was very known for boarding out a land when he was on the draw.
Okay,
boarding out 2 lands.
2 is a bit much.
It's a little excessive, and I'd love to hear from Nikachu why he did that. But there's always a method to his madness,
right?
That's the enchantment again, right? So now we just basically need 1 Merfolk, and we can start pumping out loads of little 1/1 hex proofers.
It's possible that Nikachu feels like he just needs a higher density of spells in this matchup. As we saw game 1, things worked out pretty well for him, but that's when things were firing at all cylinders, right? When he was drawing, drew multiple lords, had the Schooner plus Deeper Pilgrimage, and maybe like you said, on the draw. I wonder if he also cuts a land on the play then. 1 on the play, 2 on the draw.
What's the point in playing the land? Full stop. If you are, it's craziness. It's madness. We'll have to speak to him about it. I'm sure he'll end up making a video on all this as well. But this is the camaraderie. This is why we play Magic, right? Not only are they playing at such a high level with so much on the line, you can see them both having a smile on their face. They've played multiple times online against each other, I'm sure, and they're having fun now. At least Max is, because he's got all the answers far enough on his side of the board.
Yeah, that's a paw patch formation coming in out of the sideboard here for Max to take care of that deeper pilgrimage. That does make a lot of sense. And just because we saw how well that deeper pilgrimage was for Jonathan in game one, just being able to go so wide. And now that Max doesn't have to worry about that. I mean, Jonathan just doesn't have a lot of stuff in the battlefield. Has a schooner, doesn't have anybody to crew it. And I think I got to look at Jonathan's hand. There's 2 snakeskin veils. A good card when you're protecting against kill spells, but not when the board is clear.
No, not all. Everything seems to be going well for Max here. Able to get this bits of chip damage in. It might just turn into this race that you were speaking about. You know what I mean? Just getting it done, being able to get the combat in first, and then using the advantage of, we're going to go to level 2. This is where I'm going to look at you, Doom, and be like, what does level 2 do?
So level 2 on Storm Chaser's talent for 3 and a blue. When it becomes level 2, you can return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So Max able to pick up that paw patch formation, and that is something that can clear a second copy of Deeper Pilgrimage if that is. If that's something that comes up. And I think Jonathan drew a minor misstep as well. So a lot of reactive cards here for Nikachu, which, if he was on the battlefield, that would make a lot of sense. You get to sort of make sure that you like maintain your presence on the battlefield. But, when he's far behind like this, not the cards you're looking to draw.
Well, Merfolk's just a tempo deck at the end of the day, right? Like it tries to get a big board on the battlefield nice and early, and then after that, it kind of holds it up with protection. No matter what format it is, if that could be in Legacy with Force of Will, it could be Force of Negation in Modern, going all the way down to here in Standard, having to play some subpar counter spells, should I say? But maybe that's what we deserve here in Standard. Makes it a little bit more open. Max. In the tank, trying to decide how does he want to deploy things. Knows that Nikachu's got to have something. He's not deploying any threats.
Yeah, 4 cards in hand. What could they, this is like the classic when like collected company players pass the 4 mana, it's pretty obvious. But Max knows something's up. We're tapping 6 mana. Oh, I love it. We're going level 3, Will. Love it.
All right. Well, going back to you again, talk to me about level 3.
Well, if we can get it up on screen for the people at home that may not know this, level 3 is 6 mana. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you make a 1/1 otter with prowess. So this is a way and Max has a ton of cheap instants and sorceries that he can cast here. So especially in combination with the vitality to give you access to more mana, this is going to make a ton of otters here for Max.
I don't like to call games early, but that seems like just in itself a game-winning play. As long as Max has got a good, handful of spells, which I imagine he does. His whole deck is like full of, I think, 19 in the main. So if we can start just firing them off, doing whatever their ability is, as well as gaining extra otters, maybe we're going to see Max be able to go wide in this time around and take this game and to get us to a game number 3.
Yeah, Nikachu finds a cryptic coat, which is good, but I don't really know if that's going to be able to keep up with, Max making an otter every time he casts an instant or sorcery spell. And yeah, this is sort of, I guess this is Max's version of Deeper Pilgrimage, right? But it's, Max had to invest 11 mana and Nikachu only has to pay 2 for his. So scoreboard, I guess. But yeah, this is going to be really tough for Jonathan to come out of this.
Max is a very methodical player. Yes, it looks like he's pretty far ahead at the minute. Loads more lands, loads more spells. Got a lot of advantage going on. Doesn't want to give Nikachu a chance to get out from underneath this. Needs to get this nail in the head. Because remember, both these players are 3 wins, 5 losses. And the name of the game this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, is you need to get that 8th win. If you get 8 wins, you are locked into the top 8. But if you get that 6th loss, that's you. You are out of this tournament. You have to try again next year. Here comes a little bit of combat. Looks like we're going to animate the big boat, go into blocks.
Yeah, so I think what happened is Max attacked with the Vitality, and Nikachu crewed the boat, and then decided to block the Vitality. And then in response, Max played the Valley Floodcaller, which gives the Roaring Furnace the ability to be cast at instant speed, and then is going to cast that to presumably deal 2 to the Schooner, which will have it trade for the Vitality. The Vitality would come back. But importantly, that's an enchantment. That's not an instant or sorcery. So that's not going to give Max an otter here. So not able to deploy more stuff onto the battlefield just yet. But presumably, I mean, and even here, Nikachu doesn't have a ton of pressure on Max, and
No.
Max has the ability to just flip those furnaces at some point, right? Has plenty of mana to do so, and presumably that extra card every turn for Max will give him those instants and sorceries he needs to, get the talent going.
He's really just setting up at this point, right? Like it's really getting every single card is going to add extra advantage to it, to the point where we're now getting more otters. If we start flipping the saunas, we start drawing extra cards, and just from that, I just can't see a way Nikachu being able to fight back to turn this into a W. But if anyone can do it, it is going to be the Merfolk Master himself on the left of our screen here. Does need some lands though. Maybe sideboarding those two out were not the best game plan.
Well, I mean, he needs lands, but he also just needs creatures. His hand is so reactive right now. It's 2 Snakeskin Veils, a Minor Misstep, and a second copy of Boat, where obviously has 2 caverns, so can't really cast the Unable to Scream and the Boat. You can't cavern on Boat to cast vehicles, unfortunately. So Nikachu unable to do that. But
what do you reckon?
Go ahead.
What do you reckon Kevin's his name
in? Wizard, maybe.
To be fair, I wouldn't be half surprised if that's something that Nikachu actually did. But we're going to destroy the Scream end of turn, so it gives us back our Otter Lord, which is not good news for Nikachu, especially with just the 2 colorless up from those Cavern of Souls.
Yeah, and one thing that's worth pointing out is Nikachu drew 4 sideboard cards this game, and the sideboard cards do not look very good against Max's, non-combo game plan. So I almost wonder if maybe Nikachu is going to reconsider boarding in this much interaction, like having access to Snakeskin Veil and Minor Misstep. Maybe that's a little too reactive. Maybe maybe Nikachu is going to change it up a little bit on the play, and it could just be a play draw thing where he wants more interaction on the draw and then more, I just want to beat you down on the play. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes back to the well for game number 3, presumably, because we're probably heading there.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with you, and I think this is something that, that can happen, and it's good that everyone can see it. Sometimes you over sideboard a few things. If I bring these 5 in, you take these 5 cards out, you've diluted your actual main game plan by 5. But in fairness, Max has had a lot of the answers that he needs in this game. So after sideboard, it looks like the advantage has gone to Max. Not only has he got kill spells, he's got the ways of getting the enchantments off now. He's got an ability to build his huge board, as we're seeing right now. And Nikachu's just sitting there, kind of smile on his face, like, well, the inevitable is going to happen. We're going to be going to a game 3 momentarily. It was just a land underneath it. And now, is this lethal now?
Yeah, it should be, because these, remember, they get pumped from the prowess and they get pumped from the flood color. So I believe this is an attack for 10, because I think 2 spells were cast.
Just the one, but yeah, Nietzsche says that's enough. Cool. Let's go to game number 3 and let's see if that sideboarding. If he mixes it up a little bit more. I understand about the screams coming in. That makes sense. You can hit the Lord, etc. But some of the others, maybe he wants to bring some of those lands back in on the play. If you stumble on mana, then you just can't win the game at full stop. But that means we've get to get and game number 3, which is what I really enjoy. But we've got player profiles that we can have a little look at. We can see what the players' thoughts were coming into this event, have a little bit of insight into their mind, their lifestyle, see what they got going on. Because it interests me how players want to approach these sort of tournaments, but also just I like to know a little bit more about them and what they've got going on. I know a lot about Nikachu. I'm not gonna lie to you. John, I know a lot about him. Last time I actually saw him face to face, we were in Las Vegas, sitting outside, playing some Modern against each other, and then I forgot I was British and got completely sunburnt. It was a joy though. But you see here, it was able to win one of the NRG series tournaments to get himself here. Hometowns Canada. He is a Canada native.
What is this, Will? What is this non-magic hot take?
Oh, this is for the youngers. They're called Zoomers these days. Zoomer slang is low key, buzzing, no cap. If you're a streamer, you should know all about this. Also, that's a sentence I don't think I've ever said in my life.
Well, you just said it, so you said it on a broadcast too.
Nikachu gets the best out of me. What can I say? This man, there's not much I wouldn't do for him. What I always forget about him, out of all the accomplishments he's done, he is a chess master. I fully fact checked him on this once. Absolutely scored me at chess. He is extremely, extremely good at chess. But let's have a little look over at Max's, see what's going on over Max's life, should we say. One, starting off, great picture. Great flex. Love that. It's winning. What else we got over it? Was able to get best finish, 2 top 8s. Love to see it. San Francisco. That's California for everybody not in America. You're welcome, says the English guy.
Wait, CA is California, not Canada?
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. Is that Canada? I don't know. I think it's California. Look at you smiling. I think no one can see your face smiling right now. Just toying with me, teasing me.
The best part is I can't tell if you're trolling, but yeah, cool. He's got so shout out to Max Kominowski as well. Cool Patreon that makes Murktide content. This is better known as Twinless Twin on the internet if you're familiar with that name. Plays a lot of Murktide, and that is what he's good at. And favorite hobby outside of Magic, hanging out with my girlfriend. He's got the girlfriend flex as well as the literal flex in the picture as well.
It's just absolutely flexing us one time after, but he wants to flex one more time, and he wants to do it on Nikachu. He wants to be sending him home as we are going to game number 3 here in round number 9 of the NRG Invitational. Records are 3 and 5. Once they get that 6th loss, they are out of here. So that's why we've got them here as our feature match this round. It's not winning in Magic, it's win and stay alive Magic at this point because there is so much on the line. $35,000 divided amongst our players depending on where they come. There's a PT invite on the line as well. So much to play for, Doom.
Yeah, and I don't know if coverage can, if we can get the table spotter to take a look at Nikachu's sideboard. I'm very curious to see if he, given that how many of those sort of interactive sideboard cards he drew in the last game, I'm very curious to see if all of those stayed in. So I don't know if that's something we can have the table spotters check out. I know sometimes we look at sideboards during games, but in any case, I see 2 Snakeskin Veils in hand, so at least those stayed in.
Well, I saw, so it looks like we're going to go down to 5 here. Feels extremely low. We had a couple of lands, we had a couple of spells. Sometimes you just got to tap top of your deck and hope that you get there. But Nikachu's like, no, I need a vast majority of creatures or one of my enablers to make tokens to be able to win this game, and is more than happy going down to 5. Max looks a little puzzled, a little troubled, but is going to be keeping 7 here.
Yeah, I'm not. It'll be interesting. I'd love to talk to Nikachu about those Snakeskin Veils and kind of where his head's at with those. That's not a card that I would necessarily associate with being good against the Team Marauders deck. But it is a card that he does have access to 4 copies in the board. It's possible that maybe he only boarded in 2 and is just getting unlucky and drawing 2 both games or something like that. But yeah, in any case. It's only a mold of 6, it looks like.
I'm about to say, it looks like it's a mold of 6. I'm sure we should pick it up twice, but it is what it is. This is a lot less worse for him. The whole reason he's got these veils is because he knows that I'm doing commentary and I'm an Infect player, and he's basically doing a homage to me. He's like, I'll give Will 1 card to speak about so he can mention Infect at least 1 time today on the broadcast.
Well, I mean, he's also got Pick Your Poisons in his sideboard, and I'm sure you got those in your Infect sideboard.
I'm gonna nod and smile like I do. like I've picked up that deck in the last 5 years. Starting off on the other side, that's we're gonna find ourselves a basic and get that pit to the grip over on Max's side. So just setting up a few of the earlier turns. He's trying to decide which one it is, so it can be a little bit of shortcut in here as we pass the turn back to Nietzsche on the left. That's just a land off the top. Getting a little flooded here already.
But does have the turn 1 spy and a turn 2 pilgrimage. This is the draw that helped him win game 1. Just able to get a ton of stuff on the battlefield. We'll have to see if Max has maybe a turn 2 removal spell for that Mistway Spy. But we joked about Mistway Spy being a 1/1 with no text, but when it's a 1/1 that makes another 1/1 when it attacks, that's pretty good for 1 mana.
Especially in standard, quote unquote, one of the least powerful of all the formats that we've got going on. This is extremely powerful, but Max has the ants there, gets it off the battlefield. Nikachu has a little, puff of air blown out, and now draws the land along the lord that he was after to really advance this board. And would you fire off here just to get the extra? There's an extra 2 points of damage you could have got in.
No, so I think what Nikachu is choosing to do is potentially hold up, or going for Cryptic Code instead. I actually thought that wasn't unable to scream, so I misread that. So this makes a lot of sense as to why you wouldn't want to cast the Lord, because you'd much rather develop the Cryptic Code. I was thinking that maybe he would want to get Max into a spot where he taps too much mana for a spell, and Nikachu can surprise the Lord into play, and maybe sack a Merfolk to counter a spell. But this Cryptic Cryptic Code is a pretty good one here for Nikachu. That is a way to provide some pressure, even without the lore. It's a 3/2 unblockable. And then he can, if he starts flooding out, that's the flood insurance. If you draw too many lands, you can use the code to bounce it, reset it, create some more bodies, and that's a way for Nikachu to make sure the threats keep flowing. Did we miss off this trainer?
I think we had a little miss there off the Thunder Trap trainer. Get 4 cards. We get to pit. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom in any in a random order. So yeah, it looks like we've got a little miss. I think that was just lands and creatures there. Nikachu would take that. You take all them every single day, especially in this sort of tournament, which is so high level. Here is are we using the fight mode here?
Oh yeah, we're fighting that 1/1 is get out of here. Get out of here with that 1/1. We call this this is plan B with the Bushwhack, although sometimes it is plan A, maybe especially in this kind of matchup.
Remember, the Merfolk is just a little 1/1. The trainer is a 1/2. So if Nikachu was to turn it sideways, Max has got to smell that potentially there's a Lord coming down.
Ooh, yeah. Does Max block him? Oh, love
it.
Say,
let's go.
Love it.
Look at the little smile there on Nikachu's face as well. He's like, oh, why would I attack with my 1/1? Oh, no. Oopsie daisy.
See, this is on Arena. You would just like do the oopsie mode.
Yeah. Try and really bait it out.
There's no IRL oops, though.
Still, I think the best one to this day is LSV with the pen flick of that token.
Oh, the settle?
Oh my
Nothing
goodness.
will beat that.
One of the best plays in Magic history. If you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go check that out on the YouTubes. But Max he's smart this game. He's played it a few times, like no blocks. I'll take it. It's just 1 point of damage. Going to drop down to 13. Nikachu is going to kind of rebuild a little bit.
Cenote Scout. So I don't know if can we get Mistwave Spy up on the screen, because I know it has a kicker ability. I've never ever seen it cast with the kicker ability, and I honestly kind of forget what the kicker does. I know it's just a 1/1 flyer for 1. But if we can get that up on the screen for the folks at home.
Is it like +2 counters or something like that?
Here it is. So, it's disguise. So when it's turned face up until end of turn, whatever creature you control deals commanders investigate. Okay, I thought it was kicker, not disguise. My bad. Okay.
No, well, you were right the first time. It is just a 1-mana 1/1 flying Murphy.
Yeah, okay. It's a 1-mana 1/1.
Nikachu plays his land, 1 card in hand. We know that that's a Lord. Max on the other side, trainer, free land, has land drop available to him if he wants to do it. I advise that he would. There it goes. There's the islands that we've known about since turn 1. Good basic as well. Nice basic choice there. What are your basic choice at the minute?
Are those Foreign Tempest? Is that what those are?
I believe it looks like it's definitely Tempest.
Yeah.
Foreign Tempest, you're right.
I like the whatever the most recent unset, the space one.
Oh, okay, yeah. They are.
I like those basics a lot.
I'm on the Pixel Secret Lair ones currently.
Come on, Will.
Oh, dude, come on, they're great. You're not a fan of the 8-bit?
It's hard for me to get behind those ones. I respect your decision, but personally not for me.
So Nikachu now going to turn just the 2 sideways this time, because Max has passed his home with 4 mana open. What could he be representing here?
So Max could have this town ain't big enough, and maybe he's trying to set up a spot where he goes, block with a Thunder Trap trainer, this town to say maybe bounce like the Cryptic Code and the trainer, or maybe bounce the Manifest token and pay the 2 to because I believe the Cryptic Code token I believe is the pay 2, but decides to no blocks. And Nikachu is, we're just going to hold up the spy. I wonder what's in Max's hand then with the no blocks there.
Here's the order.
Well, that makes sense.
Now, how can we turn this around? Nikachu, remember, down on cards is on the play, though, going into game 3, and both players fighting for their life in this tournament.
Yeah, and what's interesting is we haven't really seen the combo come to fruition, like the actual full setup, the full combo setup, and I wonder if that is potentially on the cards here. I can't quite get a good look at what Max is working with, but with that, Valley Floodcaller already in play, if he has something like Enduring Vitality, can maybe try to pop off a little bit here, and he knows that Nikachu doesn't have a ton of instant speed interaction.
I think I can see at least a Roaring Furnace and 1 land out of the 4 cards in hand. Might even be double land at this point. So definitely down on options of what we can be using. I think Gamma Coast is the card I see. Then that's the one that we're going to play. What else have we got here for Max? 5 lands. Needs to kind of stem this pressure that Nikachu is applying. And by that, of course, I mean, get in there for some damage. Can't win the game if your opponent's, life total does not go down to 0.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the Valley Flood Caller is it gives all of your non-creature spells flash. So, stuff that you would normally not be able to cast in combat, like this Roaring Furnace, Max can still fire that off because of the Flood Caller. That's
such a cool little interaction. So we're going to go after the 2/2. Nikachu deciding I'm guessing it's resolved at this point because it's on the battlefield with a counter, so we can't try and counter that right now.
Well, what's funny about this is Max only has 2 cards in hand, and Nikachu has that Lord, and the Scout's a 2/2, so he can play the Lord to make the Scout a 3/3, and it would only take 2 damage.
I don't hate it. If anything, I like it. Because Max is going to have to use some resources if he wants to stop the Lord. If he does, then he goes down to 1 card in hand, which isn't going to be enough to kill the 2/2.
And I think what Nikachu is thinking about now is if Max has another kill spell, that could work out pretty bad, because then if you kill the Hexcatcher, that would remove the boost on the Cenote Scout, and it would die to state-based effects. So this line does kind of get broken up if Max does have a second kill spell, but I don't believe that he does in hand.
But then can Nikachu really play around that? Is it a game-winning line to play Max? So he's going to play into it. And Max doesn't look too happy to see that now on the stack. It's going to go back into the tank. What are these last 2 cards? So the artists have got +1/+1 and have untapped, but we are in the middle of combat. Currently
so
5 points damage.
If Max does have the torch, you could let the Hexcatcher resolve, let the Furnace resolve, the Scout would take 2, and then after that happens, then you could torch the Hexcatcher. But then I guess if you torch the Hexcatcher, Nikachu could he could only sack the Spy and the token. Max would have 2 mana left over. So I think it still would work.
I think Max said okay there. She gives it a shrug like, okay, great. That's great news for me. And then he taps it, says that this resolves, can do its 2 points of damage.
Yeah, I can't quite get a good look at what Max has. Maybe something like this town. You could go this town to bounce the Lord and something else. Yeah, so town, maybe bounce the Lord, bounce Furnace. Bouncing the Lord would remove the bonus from the Cenote Scout. The Scout would die to state-based effects, and you could pick up the Furnace. Nikachu can fight over this. Okay, curious to see what the targets were.
So now with no blocks, there's been 2 spells cast. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7 damage being dealt here. 1 card in hand left for Max.
Okay, so it's interesting that nothing from Nikachu's side got bounced. So
they got counted, right? Nikachu sacrificed the creature so he couldn't pay.
Well, no, Max paid, and then I'm not entirely sure what happened that turn. I just want to make sure that the token was not targeted by this town, because that token does have hexproof from Pilgrimage. So, I'm guessing the players have maybe are okay with that. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened that last turn.
I feel like he sacrificed.
Oh, and then he sacked the Scout to counter it. Okay, right. Yeah. So he sacked the token and then the Scout, then it got countered. Okay, I see.
Here comes Snakeskin Veil on top of the deck. Now Max is going to know about that. Maybe the damage has been done.
So this is a really complex game. There's a lot of interesting decisions from both players, a lot of weird interactions that we don't see before, and this is a very, very good testament to this Merfolk deck. If
life totals are correct, is Max not just dead? Isn't that a 3/2 unblockable attacking him right now?
I think we've already gone to damage.
Okay, so damage has already happened, right? Because now Max is at freeze
after damage,
which is really scary when Nikachu's gotten a way to equip a creature to give it +1/+0 and unblockable already on the battlefield. Snakeskin Veil on top. Remember, that gives a +1/+1 counter as well as hexproof.
Remember, though, the code can't get moved. You can bounce the code and then replay it, but he can't. That one doesn't have any equip cost.
Oh, does it not?
Yeah, so that one is when it enters the battlefield, manifest, or disguise the top, cloak the top card, I think is the correct term. But you can't actually equip it. You can pay 2 to return it to your hand, but you can't actually move the code.
Do you know why I'm thinking that? Because
Why?
of in Hammer Time
Oh
modding, you can
yeah.
move it across. That's why I'm
Yes.
thinking
Pure
in
Steel
my head.
Paladin. That's what you're thinking.
We found a removal spell here for Max. That's huge.
Yeah. That's going to
Why
buy
is
him a
that?
turn of reprieve, but even then, this is going to get really tricky because you have to spend the cloak on Cryptic Code has Ward 2, so you have to spend all of your mana. Oh, no, it's not good enough because you tap 1 mana to torch the cloak, you pay the 2 for the ward. Nikachu can just sack the spy to counter it, and that's 3 damage still coming across, unless Mech has an untapped land.
Can we win through damage here? Is it? I think it's just another land in hand, unfortunately. This has been a heck of a game. So we're getting in there.
Wasn't that one just played? Yeah, I was going to say, okay. That one just played. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. I think Max might just be dead on board to that Cryptic Code and maybe is trying to, get Nikachu to make some sort of bad block. Maybe in Max's head, if Nikachu trades off or loses enough Merfolk in combat, maybe he doesn't have enough to sacrifice to the Hexcatcher. But the torch is face up and Nikachu is aware. Basically all the information. Well, not all, because Max does have one unknown card, but everything but that one unknown card is known information. So Nikachu can do his best to see if he can play around.
Attack this. Taps it, says ward. Max says, sure, I'll pay the 2.
And now you can even just sack the scout that blocked because you know it's going to die anyways.
Sacrifice this. Max says, yep, GG's. There's the handshake. We're going to see Nikachu survive, move to 4-5 record here. Max, unfortunately, that is going to be his NRG Series Tournament Invitational gone. He's going to have to try and qualify for next year. I'm being told that that's the end of round number 9. We don't have a backup feature match for you all, so we get to have a nice little break while we set up the next round here in number 10. Any final thoughts about that game, Doom?
I mean, that was just an absolute masterclass from Nikachu. There was both of those games that he won, just very, very well played, very well executed, very well navigated, and showing us why he brought Merfolk in all 3 formats.
Yeah, if you're a fan of the fish, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a bit more of it maybe this weekend because he is playing it in all 3 formats. Standard, Pioneer, and Modern. That is going to be the next 3 rounds here on this channel. So you don't want to go anywhere, and we'll see you shortly.